Mr. Chair, offering a resolution for supporting the application of the Development Authority of the North Country for the 2023 Catalyst Program and committing matching funds to the northern border.
And is there a second? Second by Ms. Kern, Mr. Perkin. Any discussion on the resolution? Seeing no discussion, this is a roll call vote.
Forsythe,
Yes.
Harriman,
Yes.
Smithers,
Yes.
Tanisha,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Cole.
Yes.
Fay,
Yes.
Haggard. Yes. Webster,
Yes.
Jeanette,
Aye.
Terminelli,
Yes.
Kern. Aye. 13 yes, 2 ayes.
Motion carried. Next resolution, Ms. Kern. Messages.
I have a resolution recognizing May 21st to the 27th as National EMS Week, with the 2023 theme being Where Emergency Care Begins.
And is there a second by Mr. Jeanette? Smithers, any discussion? Ms. Kern.
Just that where emergency care begins is in the field when something first happens. And you'll always see me try to find new ways to encourage people to go into EMS care. I think it's a great place to start your career, no matter what you end up doing. It gives you a great appreciation for what others do, fire, rescue, police, all of it.
Pretty wholehearted. Do I roll call vote or just do a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Chair's appointment. Doesn't have any. And oh, excuse me. I'm sorry, Ms. Terminal.
Sorry, Mr. Forsythe, just that the audio wasn't working when the first resolution went through, so I just want to make sure I'm on record as having recused myself from that resolution.
Okay. Noted.
Thank you.
Well, meeting order, I'm going to call it finance. Agenda. Second. Thank you. On favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. And due to extenuating circumstances, Legislator Terminelli will attend remotely from 23 Walnut Street in Stina, and Legislator Burke is excused from the meeting. So approval from minutes, may I have a motion to approve the minutes from April 24th? Thank you. May I have a second? Forsythe, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carried. Next on the agenda, the highway department. All right, first one is modifying the 2023 budget for the Department of Highways for an increase in the capital highway improvement plan. Rearrange, Jamie. Sorry. Oof, sorry about that. They have a motion. Carl, thank you. Second, Bill, thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. The resolution that you have modifies the 2023 budget for the Department of Highways for CHIPS funding. CHIPS funding is our primary funding source for road work for the Department of Highways. And in the 2023 state budget, base CHIP was increased $502,197. But as you can see, the resolution is for nearly $3 million. At the point when we were putting the budget together last year, there was quite a bit of talk of a deficit, severe deficit at the state, and some of the messages were going around that significant cuts were going to be in the CHIPS program. Therefore, conservatively put in the base CHIPS amount. But fortunately, the programs were put in, and then also the base CHIPS was increased by just over 500,000.
Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Second one is authorizing the chair to sign a contract with Barton and Budgetis DPC for environmental services to prepare an Appendix A for Buckton State Forest segment of the multi-use trail. Have a motion? Foresight. Second. Strong. Thank you.
Yes, the resolution here before you proposes to hire Barton and Judas to perform an Appendix A, which is part of the seeker that's required whenever we program that we need to do prior to any open new segment of trail. Overall seeker for the multi-use trail system. So the number of legislators and some folks from New York State UEC and the trail coordinator met with at the Buckton State Forest and discussed the possibility of that Buckton State Forest and Club Road and the town of Stockholm possibly becoming part of the multi-use trail. It currently does, it is utilized as.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to item C, approving the New York State Department of Transportation supplemental agreement for preliminary design for Lazy River Road Bridge over Grass River, BIN 3341820, PIN 775332. May I have a motion? Nisha, second. Thank you.
Yes, this project is actually nearing completion of final design. However, during the preliminary design, there's items that need to change, and the state is willing to pay for those changes as they were requested. So this is basically to allow us to get the 95% funding that's associated with this. It's approximately $1,700, but that will allow us to get that reimbursement.
Any discussion? Charlie, do you have anything? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. The last one is authorizing the chair to sign a contract with the code report for fuel management software for all highway fuel island locations. May I get thank you, Perkin. May I get a second? Foresight, thank you.
This resolution authorizes an agreement with Klein Corp for the contract with the fuel management system. This company was used as our company at the original site here in Canton. However, as we built the outpost facilities, in order to make the key fobs work with all the systems, we needed to have one unified system that would work at all four. So at this point, a county vehicle, no matter what department, can pull into one of the outposts and obtain fuel, and it's brought back into the central system. Registering fuels.
Thank you. Any discussion? Sports side.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not that it has to quite do with this, but electric vehicle. Are we gonna have charge stations at each one of these outposts eventually with that plan?
We are actually should be meeting with.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So wait, Mr. Chairman, this is we're modifying the 2023 solid waste department budget to support equipment repair, recycling, and building property maintenance. May I have a motion? Forsythe, Spay, Ron, thank you. Second. All right, thank you. That's it, yes.
As stated, this resolution does deal with the solid waste budget. Primarily the equipment repairs, which we have seen a spike in repair costs, as well partially due to delayed delivery of equipment that we're planning on placing. And the other is the primary one is with the recycling tip. Just as a basis here, in January to June of 2022, the average tip fee that we paid for recyclables was $8.40 per ton. January to April of 2023, we are at $99.46 so over a $90 increase in tip fees year over year. So when we were looking at again at the budgeting, I did not project that we would be going from $8 to $99. That is today. By moving the funds as illustrated, this does exhaust our contingency that's contained within the operating budget. But hopefully the recycling market improves in the coming months. It did have a slight days looking better, a little better in the 80s, but still extremely
You. Any discussion? Mr.
Don, this is an increase in where we take the recyclables north of Syracuse there, Liverpool.
Yes, sir.
And what kind of explanation did they give it? Is it just because of what they're getting for the recyclable materials?
Yes, the contract is actually based on the commodities market. So, and as the commodities increase or decrease in value, that our contract actually will be very long with the commodities. So whatever is published rates for the various recyclables, that's what we pay. And plus the processing fee. But I can tell you that we were at one point in the first part of the year, we were actually in a revenue, 1 month we were under $1 revenue per ton. So it's such a wild swing in the cost. But it may be also pointing to a turn in the economy. Usually the recycling market slow down. Manufacturers slow down on their ordering and packaging, and this may be as a indicator of what's coming on.
Any other discussion, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Next up. Button. With remote. Okay. This is for authorizing the settlement of the Northern District of New York Federal Court action and modifying the 2023 budget for the County Attorney's Office. May I get a motion? Thank you, second, Mr. Hall, thank you. Mr. Button.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. The resolution you have in front of you would do two things. It would authorize the chair to execute settlement documents associated with a litigation action that is currently pending in the Northern District of New York that you're all familiar with, I've discussed with you. It would also increase the line item that provides for these types of nominal settlements. Separate and distinct from the Northern District of New York action, this is the account that also handles our uninsured, non-insured motorist coverage. So anytime we have one of our own county vehicles that gets into a fender bender with a deer or a slip on an icy road, we treat it much like we do any type of insurance company. We have to cover repair claims unless it's been budgeted for in that individual department. So this is the account that handles that. As you'll see, even though the settlement of the Northern District number is $12,500, the ask here is for $50,000 to go into that account because we've actually had 3 rather sizable repairs this year associated with county vehicles.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Next up is the name of the treasurer. So we are adopting mortgage tax report. A motion, Perkins, second, Curran. May I get a second? Oh, thank you. Go ahead. Thank you, Renee. Oh, you're on mute. Still on mute.
How about now?
You have a lot of sounding great.
Can you
Where's
hear?
yours?
Yes.
Hmm?
Yes.
She can't hear.
You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that, technical difficulties.
No worries.
So this is you've seen this. I bring this resolution twice a year. Oh, sorry about the dog. This is allowing us to distribute mortgage tax monies that were collected by the county clerk's office that are actually due to the towns, to the municipalities. The county clerk turns over the funds to my office on a monthly basis, and twice a year, they submit a report to New York State for approval. Upon approval by the state, we submit this resolution for your adoption. This represents funds that were collected from October 2022 through March of 2023. And I will note that it looks like things are starting to cool off a little bit. Compared to the last 2 years, if I compare this to the same first half year payments for 2022, it's actually down $221,000. But it is, if I go back to 2020, it's $115,000 higher than the similar time period. So if you recall, we had quite a little boom, I think. Prices went up on houses and things were selling like crazy. So it does appear to be taming down a little bit. That's all I got.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carried. Thank you, Renee. Next is going to Legislator Terminelli. This is for opposing the Senate Bill S 4976A and Assembly Bill A 2084, an act to amend the environmental conservation law in relation to prohibiting the use of lead ammunition in the taking of wildlife on state-owned land and land contributing to surface water, New York City water supply. And I get a Ron second. No, thank you. Mr. Terminelli. Where's yours?
Thank you. I brought this resolution to the floor as a result of conversation that we had at my fisheries advisory meeting. And, you know, the resolution kind of sums it up. This is one more time that we see the state bringing through legislation that largely impacts New York City as far as water quality goes there. But like anything else that we've discussed this year, a ban to halt something so quickly really has a ripple impact and effect on many, many people. And it's just not logical or feasible for hunters, for producers in a rural area like ours, for access. And then there's always that education component about, you know, making sure that people are educated about their options. So I'm bringing this to you tonight.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Sorry, Ms. Britton, did you have something to add? Yeah. Okay. I didn't know you to. Where's your?
I would just like to be added as a co-sponsor, please.
Ms. Britton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Nicole, for bringing this forward. I think this is a very good resolution. Most people from New York City probably don't realize our waters from here flow north. They don't go to the city. So this has no effect on them, so it shouldn't affect us. Thank you.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to be added as co-sponsor as well. Seem to be no end from New York City residents trying to have our way of life dictated by them.
Nicole, just to be clear on this, this isn't just ammunition that's fired over water areas. It's over all forest lands. I mean, in shotguns, duck hunting, they've outlawed lead for quite a few years based on the danger that it posed to fish and ducks. But this is much more broad than that, apparently. It doesn't seem to make sense that shooting out in the woods with lead ammunition would endanger people in New York City. I don't get it.
Was that a question directed towards me or was that just a comment?
Yes, it seems like that. If I'm seeing this right, please, yes, is that correct?
If I may, Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure. So in the resolution, and when you look up the legislation, I guess it's that word "and" in there. So it's prohibiting the use of lead ammunition on state-owned land and land contributing to surface water in New York City. So it's kind of both of those. So when we're globally thinking about that, you know, we have a lot of state-owned land out around in our county that has conservation easements that you know, hunters use on a regular basis. So that would also impact those lands as well.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Thank you very much. I'd like to explain why I will support this. Firstly, I want to say that the National Institute of Health, through the National Library of Medicine, did a review of the literature from 1975 to 2016. They came up with 570 peer-reviewed articles that show that there's a scientific consensus that lead ammunition is harmful to the environment for many reasons. That being said, I do also understand that I have fought in areas where families depend on this as a food source. It's a very important food source. I really appreciate the way Legislator Terminelli has indicated that of phasing in education, and she pointed out the supply chain issues. Therefore, I can support this, even though as far as environmental soundness, it may not be perfect, but sometimes we have to take things from another direction. And I appreciate that she incorporated that and to make a good explanation. So thank you very much.
No, thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. You can start on. Forward. Vacancy review committee. Go ahead.
Include the vacancies that were reviewed this month. We have 5 units under this committee tonight for you to review, with the most coming from my office, but for the buildings and grounds department. Each other department has 1 position to consider, and the first one is from highway. Don?
Thank you. This position that is currently vacant is for a labor position. One of 2 laborers positions that I have at the department. This position became vacant due to retirement. As you can see, the last fill date is in April of '94. So a long tenured employee decided to retire. But nonetheless, we are having difficulties with quoting numbers. So even for trips, a lot of work.
Don, do you have a full staff right now?
No, we do have vacancies at this point. Not a huge amount of vacancies, but we seem to have retention issue, if you may. So I am in front of the board every month with usually at least a couple of positions. But I've also been submitting back to the board where we've lost individuals within a year period. In fact, there were just 2 that were submitted 2 days ago to the administrator's office to fill positions that people that were here last year who were not able to.
Mr. Forsythe?
Mr. Chair. Don, the 1801, I see 1801 is starting. Valid. That's low, right? Compared to most of the towns and villages as far as hiring. CDL not required,
For this position, not required.
but you will put them through the program. More than likely,
We just hired a
So I guess the question would be, what would we have to do to make this a competitive hourly salary that would enable you to hang on to these employees a little longer? How would we do that? Is that something we'd have to negotiate with the union?
Thank you.
Next up, we have Wheeler. Sam is with us. Good evening, Pam.
Thank you. Good evening. This is an employment and training counselor position that was vacated when the individual took a promotion as a senior employment and training counselor. The employment and training counselor works directly with individuals looking for employment or the training needed to find employment, as well as working with employers to help them get qualified workers. This person also assists in the resource room, working with individuals with resumes, cover letters, online applications, etc. If this position were not filled, we could possibly see fewer individuals coming through the program, which could result in us not meeting our benchmarks set by the New York State Department of Labor, and subsequently resulting in a recapture of funds.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like there's no questions.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next up is my office. Jim Traffin's here with us, because he gives much more detail and explanation than I could in buildings and grounds. We have two positions for you to consider this evening. The first is a building maintenance worker, and then we'll go over the buildings and grounds leader. Yep.
So fortunately for the staff members, unfortunately for the county, we got more retirements coming up. The gentleman that's currently in the building maintenance work takes care of our key lock program. So inspects our fire extinguishers along with normal maintenance duties. So it's pretty key employee here. So it's imperative that we get him replaced as soon as possible.
Questions? Okay, second one.
Thank you. The next one is also a long-term employee. Our crew leader position, so he oversees the very key to keeping the management in that role. So we're someone that's strong, leadership qualities.
Questions?
And what specific skill sets required for the building and ground?
Really, I mean, it goes to general overall knowledge of maintenance and custodial duties. That's definitely a plus, but really looking more for the leadership aspect of it. People, I know their jobs on that ship, but we need somebody to keep that on the same.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
We have one from the treasurer's office. Name still with us. Go ahead, Renee.
Hi, can you hear me?
You can.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so we have a senior account clerk vacancy. It's due to a retirement in my office. It's my third retirement in my office this year. I've had enough of them, I'll just say. But this is a critical position. Its primary responsibility is the recording of the cash receipts. Give you an idea of the scope of it, we processed 6,109 cash receipts in 2022. This position is responsible for that, totaling $180 million. So, we take deposits in our office from the window, sometimes by mail, sometimes they're deposited electronically by our bank account. We process health insurance for payments from retirees, fines and surcharges, property tax receipts, and a lot of other departmental income that comes to our office for processing. And this position has a sole responsibility really for recording all of those. They're also number 2 on coverage at the window and phones in our office. So we're a really busy office and we could not get by without this position.
Okay, thank you, Renee.
Thank you.
And then the last position is with regards to social services. I spoke to the board last month, identifying that the vacancy committee had authorized the moving forward of a position with the difficulty that we've been having in filling the lead fiscal person in social services. And so we were able to have a good conversation about that. We've been able to look at the responsibilities tied to by far the largest budget at the department level we have. And have worked with human resources. We have come up with the director of finance position. So currently there's a fiscal manager title. It's a management band 3. And we believe that the level of responsibility tied to this position was not in keeping with the salary. And so we've taken a look at that. We've added responsibilities from that perspective, but I'll let Commissioner speak to that a little bit.
Good evening.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
right, first time. Good evening. So again, this is the Director of Finance position. Our Director of Finance will be a supervising unit of 9 people. We have in our county division. We have a $74 million budget, so there's a lot to go on. I need somebody in there that can keep everybody on the same page and make sure that we're maximizing all of our reimbursements as much as possible, right? I can't honestly say that we're getting everything right now because I don't have any leadership. I have this position vacant, what would be this position, and the assistant accounting supervisor position is also. So I have not had, with the exception of a few weeks or a couple of months since I've been here, I've not had anybody in that position. We've advertised in a number of different ways. We can't get any of the people that we have interviewed that accepted the position decided to decline because they were met with a more competitive salary and the ability to work remotely from the jobs that they were already at. So I would ask you to consider this position. The director is going to collaborate with my director of services and my social welfare examiner to try and marry the budget process and the assessment process to the departments so that each of my departments has more of an idea of where the expenditures are going, how we're keeping a handle on it, and maximizing our reimbursements while minimizing our expenses. I think this is a key position. And I've been struggling without it. So I would ask you to please consider this position.
As Commissioner mentioned, just to give you a little bit of background, the history of this. This position was last held on a permanent basis from 2018 to December of 2021. You may recall we had our departing fiscal person contract with us to do the close of the year and to work with us for the first few months. That ended in about May. And then we had a great hire that couldn't continue for personal reasons for 4 months in mid-22, and it has been vacant since that time. There have been interviews. We've incorporated the treasurer's office to make sure the person that we're interested in moving forward for this role has the competencies, the capabilities to lead this unit. But also, as Commissioner indicated, we want to marry better the programs and the units to what fiscal is doing and what fiscal understands their role is to the programs that they're running. There hasn't been a great connection between the two, and we believe that's really important going forward. As, for example, the rules continue to change in just Medicaid and the recertifications that are required, and a number of things on the program side that people are addressing that may not be matched up necessarily from an accounting side, so that folks know what's happening. So we want to make sure that we do that better moving forward. Questions?
Mr. Snyder.
I got it, guys.
Okay, a couple things. To me, it's a no-brainer, 81% reimbursed, maximizing your receivables, so it'll pay for itself in no time. Is the salary not competitive with the open market? Is that what the,
That is correct, sir.
okay, and even changing this title doesn't really.
Well, we're changing. We're upping the band from where it was. It was a band 3,
Yeah.
and we're raising it to a band 4.
Okay.
This gives us a little bit more flexibility with somebody coming in to offer a more competitive salary than we would have been able to in the past.
Okay, hopefully it works. Yeah.
Most of my question was covered by Dave, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You made some great points. I do think that, I don't want to say things slip through the cracks, but it really takes somebody who knows what they're doing to keep on top of all the money that's out there. My concern is, as we retitle these and we raise the salaries, we're creeping up on salaries in departments perhaps with financial responsibility that's higher than this. How do we, and this is probably not directed, and so if you can indulge me, Mr. Chair, perhaps Ms. Doyle can address my concern. We're seeing this sort of, it's a thread that's going through a lot of things, but we have to raise the salaries to be competitive. But we're leaving our current employees squishing down on this. This is probably, and I wouldn't know who to rank it. Maybe the third highest financial position in the county. Would that be correct?
Yes.
And how do we go about not pushing up on the people that are this kind of salary, pushing up on the people that are already in place and handling probably more than 74 million? And I'm totally behind you on this, but I'd like to know how we're going to address that if we have thought about it.
We do think about that, and especially in the situation where these positions are also civil service. And so they are positions that have to be evaluated and competed for. But from the salary perspective, it makes it very difficult without sending ripple effects through other areas. And there's not a method that we have internally without looking at the entire schedule that would accomplish that. So we do end up in situations where we're either equal to or very close to other positions with different responsibilities. And that's a challenge for us.
Quick follow-up, if I may.
Sure.
Thank you. So how do we do that so that people don't see this happening and start abandoning ship and moving laterally? I mean, it's probably going to cause its own ripple. And I'm not sure, I don't know what the salaries in Treasury are, but I would imagine that this is getting closer. Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you.
What are the minimum qualifications for the position?
Put that in front of me, but I believe it's a bachelor's degree. But I can find out if it's not, or if it's an or scenario where there's also experience, but I can get those for you.
It would just seem for someone who's going to be overseeing such an amount of money that a bachelor's degree may not provide us with the kind of expertise that's needed to get a handle on whether or not we're maximizing our reimbursement.
Certainly, and I think anyone, both our treasurer and deputy treasurer, held this position before, would tell you that beyond education, beyond experience, working in this environment is very much train on the job, but they need to bring in some background. So traditionally, in situations, you'll have a prescribed group of degrees that would mandate certain types of training coming in the accounting field in those areas. But it also is, in this situation, with the complexities of social services, require training through the state on these systems and how their complexity of reimbursements work. So some of it's part on the job training, but much of it is coming in knowing what you're looking at. And that's where I think we are looking to bring that up a little bit, but I can get you those qualifications.
I'm actually, I don't know that this is the proper place to bring this up, perhaps in a full board meeting, but I think it would be, we might want to consider adding a sentence or a paragraph to these sheets, providing us with what the minimum qualifications are for these positions, so that we get a better idea of what it is that we're looking for these positions. And it would certainly help us when we're running into people. If we know someone who might be looking at going to work for the county, we know ahead of time what kind of qualifications they need to be whatever, then we'd be in a better position to
talk about it with them and suggest that they, look at, the county as a potential employer. And I mean that at all levels, whether it's, at the very, lowest ranking all the way, et cetera, because, I look at these and I wonder, what the qualifications are for some of the people who are handling millions and millions of dollars. But that's just me.
I think that's a great idea, and this would be the appropriate venue. We put together the vacancy form and we can amend it. I think that also would get it out in the public, because these are, I'm sure that it has great readership, our agendas, but they, if they have the qualifications on it, that may also be someone's interest who's looking at the agenda.
Would I need to make a motion?
No, we can add that.
Thanks, Rob.
You bet.
Thank you, Chair. So if I understand this correctly, the position as written, the minimum qualification would be bachelor's, but we would be looking at true experience and other qualifications to really determine competency. I'm glad to see that. I think I just want to make a note. I think we should be cognizant of and careful not to fall prey to advanced degree inflation in our hiring practices. I think that's a common pitfall with employers these days, is to use advanced degrees as proxies for competency. So I'm encouraged to see that, and it really does remind us what we're evaluating on, and just seeing a series of letters after someone's name doesn't entirely answer our question of competencies. Glad to see that, and I agree with Legislator Reagan's suggestion to have that be part of our forms.
Absolutely. Okay. This is an or scenario, but I have the qualifications in front of me now. The first is a master's with 5 years of work experience in accounting and finance with 2 years of supervision, or graduation from a bachelor's degree, accounting, finance, or business with 5 years of experience, 2 years of supervision, or graduation from associate's degree in accounting, finance, or business, 7 years of experience and 2 years of supervision. So all are provided for depending on. Yep. Any other questions?
I just want to point out that, well, I agree with Jim. All that the number of letters after your name is not necessarily an indicator of intelligence. I have those.
Anything else? Thank you. That concludes vacancy for this month. And going on a short report for American Rescue Plan Act funds. The quarterly reporting with the federal government was completed timely. Just want to make sure that you're aware as we move forward in the spend of these dollars. We've talked with the committee about putting a web page up that is just about ready to go, as well as the contracts for both the water and sewer repairs and development and the broadband. So those all are being prepared. Planning has been working with our treasurer's office to get those contracts in place and to make sure that work can commence. Any questions right now? Okay.
Moving on to the county administrator report. First is the establishing a standard workday for the New York State retirement system for reporting purposes. May I have a motion? Thank you. Second. Foresight, thank you.
So this is the reporting that we're required to complete, report, and then post on our website. Either legislators complete it, elected officials at the beginning of their term, they do have the option to renew that same reporting log for a second term. So these are the record of activities that we will be reporting on this year. Questions?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Second is proclaiming June as Dairy Month. May I have a motion? Shanisha, second. Ms. Curran, thank you.
So we've taken to the proclamation of June as Dairy Month. For many years, we've had a celebration with our dairy ambassadors joining us. We've also had over the years some farmers come in and talk to us about their discipline and the challenges that they face. And that we plan again this year with the help of our historian, highlighting some of our century-old, if not longer, farms in the county. But we also yet again plan to host the dairy ambassadors to come in at our June board meeting.
Discussion? Ms. Curran?
Could I be added as a co-sponsor, please?
Absolutely. Anyone else? Discussion? All those in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Wanted to let you know that the 2024 budget process is underway. For those not familiar, and a reminder for those who are, we start this month with some review over the existing personnel allocations in each of the departments to get payroll situated so that they can load budget as the process begins in earnest in about a month. But in the midst of all of that, you may recall when IT was here and that I've shared with you, we're also going to be in the thrust of a major upgrade to Munis, our financial system. So that's going live June 1st and 2nd. And our hope is that we're well online and acclimated by the time we get to our budget process. I just wanted to remind you of that and let you know. For those who are new, traditionally we are the budget team of staff reviewing these inputted budgets in August to prepare for the presentation that you receive in October. So we'll keep you posted on progress with that. Certainly a lot of changes, certainly a lot of impact expected from the state budget, but we'll continue forward with our traditional process at this time. Wanted to mention to you, as was shared today, that there is Restore New York funds being shared in St. Lawrence County, $5.5 million. $2 million is being received for Canton's Midtown Plaza. There is $1.8 million for the 30 Main Street demolition in Ogdensburg, and $1.693 being received for Waddington's Clark House. So some significant funds coming our direction with the Restore New York. Also letting you know, as we continue in many different ways talking about recruiting and retention, our human resources department has renewed their interest over the last 18 months to recruiting, and they will be attending the BOCES Career Fair at Seaway Tech on May 31st. So I think that's a great opportunity to have that discussion. They don't have the ability to attend all of the BOCES job fairs, but this is one that they'll be able to staff. Wanted to let you know the annual report of the Board of Ethics has been received, and in summary, this will be available to you, but in summary, they received 6 complaints in 2022, 2 advisory opinions issued. They reviewed the financial disclosure statements of all required county policymakers and employees. They reviewed the draft of the new ethics law that's being considered and are drafting a response with any potential questions or changes that they would put forward. Wanted to mention to you, we've been talking about a few different circumstances where local laws on the books may have to be reviewed. And another one has come to our attention. In June of 2021, many of you may remember local law number 2, which authorized supervised hunting for 12 and 13-year-olds. And that law, when it was passed, was only allowed to be in place until 2023. And so we've been advised that we need to, unless there's an objection from the board for the current law that exists, we'll begin preparing that local law for renewal this year so that it overlaps and doesn't expire. Any questions about that? We'll draft it the same. I'll share that out with all of you so that you can take a look at what we have on the books now and what we'll be proposing. But also just as a reminder, a few local laws will need to be considered this year by the board, one of which is item pricing that comes over from our last year's discussion, the ethics law that I just mentioned, as well as tobacco use on county property. So as we know, things have expanded and we have not updated our local law. So those all will be in discussions in the coming months. I wanted to mention that the unaudited results for 2022, traditionally you would hear tonight, they'll be presented to you at the June operations meeting on the 12th, so that you have at least a picture. That's right around the time our auditors will be arriving, but that will give you a picture of where we stand closing out 2022. And at finance next month, as a reminder, also, I'll be making recommendations in consultation with the treasurer for the allocation out of the 22 results to the reserves. As you may remember, we created 2 new reserves last year. I'll make recommendations on all of those. And then wanted just to mention that we do have 2 requests from board members to meet with the hospital systems. Wanted just to mention, we'll get those dates out to you. We continue working and arranging schedules and trying to match up so that both the St. Lawrence Health conversation can occur, as well as Claxton Heifer, just to understand where things are and where they're headed with healthcare in the county. I do have 2 other items that I wanted to briefly invite guests up to discuss with you. The first one is 250th commemorative commission that our historian Nancy Lefevre would like to speak to you about.
Thank you for letting us. Pretty sure. I'm not really sure I need it. But, thank you for letting me speak to you. I'm here to ask you to consider and hopefully approve a St. Lawrence County 250th commemorative commission. On July 24th, 2026, the Declaration of Independence, and therefore kind of sort of by default, the United States will be 250 years old. So I think it would be best if I read what I typed up and then I don't go on bunny trails. Is that okay? So in the background information, in 2019, the federal government created the United States, I think I can do it, Semi-Quincentennial Commission to coordinate events around the country on this celebration. They're working on some things like commemorative stamps, commemorative coins. They're revamping some designs on the quarters, and they apparently have some naval vessels that they're waiting to commission and name on that. In 2016, Boston created their 250th commemorative commission, Philadelphia in 2017, New York City in 2019, and then I think New York State kind of said, we better get on board. And in June 8th of 2021, New York State passed the New York State Commemoration Act. They are hoping to focus on the lesser known stories, as in African-American stories, Native American stories, and women who maybe didn't really directly benefit from the outcome of the Revolutionary War as much as some other people groups did. They started with a 22-member group, various individuals and who they represented, but for us, it's important that they designated representatives from each of the 9 Native American nations that are in New York State, one of them being the St. Regis Mohawk tribe. The New York State historian sits on the commission, and he's tasked, his name is Devin Lander, he is tasked with coordinating each region of the state. He has been asked to attend all county historian meetings, regional meetings, and participate at the state level on the commission. At last year's Association of Public Historians, we kind of call it AFSCME, he asked us for help. I don't know if you know or not, but I am the Region 6B coordinator for the Association of Public Historians, and that is all of Franklin and St. Lawrence County. Julie Madlin is vice president of that organization. Her and I kind of get into mischief together, but that's a different day. He asked me in St. Lawrence County for help getting a 250th, the St. Lawrence County 250th commemorative commission approved and going, and with my connections with the United Empire Loyalists. AFSCME created a field guide. They just put that out. I have copies of that digitally. I didn't print them out because I'm sure you don't really want to know about it. But they thought that it would be best to maybe have some themes. They came up with 6 interpretive themes. That is, if you want to know, I can let you know. St. Lawrence County is behind a little bit on some of the other counties in New York State. I was recently asked how many counties of the 62 in the state had created 250th commissions. I did some research, and of the ones that I could find information on, there were 10. Of the 10, 3 are chaired by the county historian, and they didn't tell who the others were. So last October, I began thinking, what could we do here in St. Lawrence County, and what a 250th might look like. I did some pre-planning, I reached out some groups, get some information, and quite honestly, I was blown away by the enthusiasm, the eagerness to get started. Actually, there are 2 groups that I had to say, well, nothing has been created, you may not move forward. The Board of Legislators have not approved anything yet, and they keep sending me emails. Are they there yet? Are they there yet? So unless you want them to come, so if the Board of Legislature decides to chair the commission, I would like to form a sub-commission or committee. I actually got a little nerdy and called it the Committees of Correspondence, the way that George Washington and some others had. And I thought I would have a 13-member group, as in 13 colonies. Yeah, it gets a little weird. You invited me to say. Some of the groups that I already have wholeheartedly on board, just waiting for the word, is both chapters of the DAR, the SAR, which this area is part of the Thousand Islands chapter. Almost all, I say almost, but of the municipal historians, they're already starting to do some research, and we had our county historians meeting on May 6th, and everyone that was there was like, yeah, let's go. The St. Lawrence River Historical Fund, which is Dennis McCarthy in Cape Vincent. He has a lot of dives and wrecks in the St. Lawrence, and he's got a ton of information on my island. Don't tell me. I also have a gentleman who is a high-ranking British officer in Great Britain. He's a reenactor and an author. He is very knowledgeable of the 57th Regiment of Foot, Aubrey's company, which was at both Fort Haldeman, Fort Oswegatchie, and I would dare say he was likely at Fort William Augustus as well. All of those are in, well, not Fort Haldeman, but Fort Oswegatchie and Fort William Augustus are in St. Lawrence County. And there's a whole litany and list of other groups that I would like to reach out to get them on board as well. So. And tell a little bit about what the commission does. What the commission would do. Oh, well, I gave us a mission statement. These are all in draft, so please don't think I'm lying. But anyway, the St. Lawrence County 250th Commemorative Commission would consist of, I put 13 because it's a draft, and of official members. It would be tasked with planning, organizing, and collaborating on all ceremonies, events, activities, and celebrations recognizing the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution in St. Lawrence County.
Questions for Nancy?
Not
Mr. Forsythe. Thank you, Mr. Chair. In your planning, Ms. LeFevre, did you come up with a tentative budget you need to assemble this illustrious group?
I did not, because I thought it depends. No, I didn't really know how to do it. Let's put it that way, because I thought that was a little ahead of.
Okay. I think it's a great idea. I think we can talk it over as a group, and yeah, sounds great. Glad you got started on it already.
I think it's great. And may I ask, are you collaborating with the chamber? They are. Is that why we have the well-known Miss Browse here this evening, or is this a different matter? Because it sounds like something we could. She is the number one on my list of who to reach out to when you approve it. Don't forget about Mr. Reagan. He's already told me he wants to sit on it. Thank you. You're welcome.
Mr. Hall.
Thank you. This is fabulous. It's really, really exciting. And it's a treat to live in this time period where we can celebrate something for which we've benefited so greatly. Maybe we can ask that British officer to chip in on the budget side of things.
Maybe we could get all of England, but
Sort of
they're on the other side.
We can ask.
One thing that I did have in my mind and negate everything he said, for the Board of Legislators for St. Lawrence County, I would like to see us do a big celebration in Canton somewhere, maybe a parade, fireworks, picnic on July 4th of 2026. We don't get a lot of opportunities to celebrate in a nationwide celebration. And I just thought that might be something we could do collectively as St. Lawrence County, necessarily as all the other working pieces.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well received and refreshing. I like your enthusiasm.
Oh, he hasn't seen
Jesse, Lieutenant Chambers to come up. We are and have been discussing the contract for winter maintenance on our county road system. And so I wanted just to have Don give you a bit of background for those who may not be as familiar, and give you an opportunity to ask questions. I believe we may have a map that we're going to work on bringing up for you. But it's certainly something that we don't have to deal with every year necessarily. The last contract was approved in 2020. But certainly we know things have changed since that time, but I wanted to have a little bit more background potentially than you'd have otherwise. Don?
Yes, thank you. First thing, the multiple towns that contract with us, nearly all towns in the county. It's a total of 422 miles of road that are followed by municipalities. It is critically important to operations in the economy of this county that we maintain safe roadways months. So vitally important to, like I said, the economy and public. So that is a partnership that has lived for decades. These municipalities. Contracts, we've gone from going to annual contract to that's always open for negotiation. The committee that was appointed by Chair of the Legislature has had several meetings with representatives of the town supervisors group to work on finalizing a contract between the county and these various municipalities. So the contract has the last couple contracts have dealt with adjustments, automatic adjustments for diesel fuel prices and salt prices to protect variations, contractual prices on salt, and also fluctuations that occur. A lot of things have gone into these negotiations. I think both sides have worked diligently to come up with solutions.
Don, there's quite a lot of discussion about these tiers, tier 1 and tier 2. Now, can you just tell us a little bit about, and maybe show us on the map there, the rationale for that tier two towns, only like 2 and 3 miles, and how they're isolated from the rest of the roads.
So, yes, and before I point them out, I'll go over the miles that are in the contract. The town of Clifton is 7.54 miles. The town of Fine does 2.99 miles. Piercefield does 2.39 miles, and Pitcairn does 4.57 miles. So not large enough, but they predominantly, I don't know if you can scroll the map. The county routes that are plowed by the towns are in green, so. And the county roads that are plowed by county forces are in red. So. If I can start down here in Smithfield, we have a small section of road that goes down into Conifer. Then we have another section over here in Fine, goes into Wanakina. Clifton plows the County Road 60, which loops from State Route 3 into Newton Falls and back around. And then we also have Pitcairn that does a portion of does County Road 23 and a portion of in 27A that comes off State Route 58 and then heads to our County Road 27. So right on the bottom portion of the county, the southernmost portion of the county is where the tier 2, if you have, where there's a difference in payment for snowplow. In that area, definitely Wanakina, Piercefield, do see considerably more.
Yours. I'm wondering, who is it and when does it happen? Does it happen during these sessions that you're having with the towns as to which tier particular town can move into or stay with where they are? When is that time period? When does that happen? When does that decision happen? Does it happen during these negotiations?
That some of that discussion has been had in these discussions. Yes.
Okay. And I know it's been had because I've got a call from the head of the town supervisors, Mr. Newbine, and he called me a while ago and was concerned that the county was, the way he put it, county be losing out on $14,000 over 3 years or $4,500 a year. And the county's going to have to plow their own roads in Edwards, for example, is what the talk is up there. And I called the town supervisor today in Edwards, and that is sort of what the gist is of their thinking up there, that it's going to, the town supervisor says it's going to cost him $20,000 that we continue with the plan of the tier that they're in. So they're arguing that because they're in such close vicinity with Fine and Clifton, that they would like to be in the same tier as they are. And so that would be moving them from move them up to tier 2.
Right. Well, that was discussed.
Yeah.
That actually.
And so it was discussed and it was decided that it's final, that is not going to happen.
Those will be discussions that we have.
Okay, we discuss it in executive session. Okay.
Other questions? Okay.
You know, if you only have a resolution Resolution authorizing the chair to sign a contract with the Development Authority of the North Country for assistance in writing the 2023 Community Development Block Grant application. They have a motion. John second. Or thank you. You, sir.
Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to bring this resolution tonight to finance to you. It is somewhat time sensitive. So just a little bit of background on why you're seeing this now. For about 40 years or so, the county has participated in the Community Development Block Grant Program, excuse me, our CDBG program. That is a program that is funded primarily, or has been over those years, through federal monies allocated by HUD to a state agency. It's changed names several times, but currently is the Office of Community Renewal. And county has benefited from about 32 programs over those 40 or so years. The applications are written usually annually, and they have typically been written by the county planning office. We'd like to continue the program. We think it's a very worthwhile program, very successful, has been brought quite a bit of money into the county, has certainly helped the housing stock in the county. Unfortunately, this year, well, unfortunately, maybe not the right term, but we do have some capacity challenges in our office now. We're seeing a retirement of a long-time staff that's been leaving us the end of July, and he has been the primary author of these applications over the years. So we do have new staff coming on, but they'll be very new. Really won't have the expertise or the knowledge to prepare the application this year. So we had several discussions with county administrator's office about the approach that we could take here, and we did put out a request for quotes to get some input from the entities out there that can help us with this sort of thing. And we did receive one application or one response back from the Development Authority of the North Country, and we would like to pursue contracting with them to help with the preparation of this grant application this year.
Discussions, Forsyth?
Yeah, and I didn't realize they did it. I knew they did it for a lot of water and sewer projects and different of their own, and for the municipalities, but I didn't realize they did it on a big basis. That's interesting. Is there any problem with unions or job titles? Doing exclusive work or anything, or we're fine there?
I think the applications have been outsourced before for this particular one, not likely. We can certainly have that discussion to make sure that this would be just as the transition. We have hired two people, I'm not sure if Jason mentioned that, who will be coming on and getting up to speed, so they'll be doing portions of it. So it's not as though we're getting out of the business and getting rid of the work. We hope to and anticipate bringing it back in.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. New reports. Oh, sorry. Any other or new business? Sure.
This is, I guess, would be under new business. I noticed that the Coast Guard in Messina is looking for commentary on the proposed move of the Coast Guard officers out of the building behind the St. Lawrence Seaway building on Andrew Street down to Fort Drum. I guess my concern is recently we took Fort Drum off of an independent power system that was theirs, and they're kind of now open to the same problems that the rest of the grid has. The Messina grid, MED in particular, has actually a wonderful system. The number of times that there have been outages in Messina are few and far between. They have a very dependable, redundant system that gives us great services. And I guess if the Coast Guard does most of its work in the St. Lawrence River Valley, I wouldn't want to see them all the way down in Fort Drum when we need them. And then how good is the power down there? Just a thought of us losing those people is something maybe we should all think about and maybe comment on.
Mr. Earl?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to provide a heads up. I'd like to bring a resolution for consideration at our full board meeting proclaiming June as Family Month and San Lorenzo County National Family Month has been observed. It's a time, the 5-week period between Mother's Day and Father's Day. I think it's a great opportunity to make light of the value of families and also highlight a lot of the ways that our county government involved in fostering, encouraging healthy and thriving families. So I'll make sure that gets to the board and
Any other business? And moving to the committee reports, going to the Cornell Cooperative Extension Board, Mr. Nishan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our next meeting is Thursday, May 25th at 6 p.m., but I do have a couple here. The Master Food Preserver, Master Gardener volunteers hosted a Grow Preserve open house at the Extension Farm on May 6th, and very well attended. Started a farm to community program at the County Human Services Center. Where you can order produce weekly and pick it up on Thursday. And the farm partner is Grandview Farm from Madrid. There's something that's really great. The 4-H shooting sports is full. 30 participants, about halfway through its 8-week course at the Norfolk Rod and Gun Club. So I think it's great. We've got young folks that are interested in sports. We're getting an opportunity to have it. To give them a try. Over the past couple weekends, Extension's hosted a beef area and equine showmanship camps in preparation for San Lorenzo County Fair. And the construction is almost complete on the new Exodus Academy classroom at the Extension Farm. If anyone is like to come see it, more than welcome to take it.
Yes, sir. Moving to the Fish and Wildlife Management Board, Region 6, Mr. Sherry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That group will meet on June 15th. That'll be the next meeting.
Thank you, sir. The Fisheries Advisory Board, Mr. Manelli.
So we had actually a combined meeting, and the Federated Sportsmen's Club, 2 members joined us at our last meeting on May 9th. And really the bulk of the conversation in both organizations was really about the lack of participation and membership, and finding issues or concerns for people to kind of rally around and get support in general. So there were 5 people there and 6 including myself. And really it was just membership conversations, how to increase membership in both of those organizations. Our next meeting will be another combined meeting just to see if we can get membership there. It will be on August 22nd at 6 o'clock downstairs in the basement from where you're at. But I would like to also take a moment to celebrate Bob Flavin. He is the chairman of the Fisheries Advisory Board. This week he traveled to Canastota and was recognized and given the Outdoorsman Hall of Fame Award for his walleye repopulation program that has served St. Lawrence Seaway and Oshkosh for over 40 years. So I just wanted to take a moment to celebrate that.
Thank you. Governor Fair Board, Mr. Smithers.
Yes, Governor Fair Committee, or their board recently had a spring demolition derby, May 7th. It was well attended, very successful. They have an event planned July 4th for fireworks. To date, 444, not to date, but as of May 2nd, their last meeting, 444 concert tickets for the Dylan Scott concert on the Saturday of Governor Fair have been sold. Recent purchase, a new lawnmower and 2 new John Deere Gators for use and expected to be paid for with grant funding. There's a tent revival. There'd be the second one. They had one last year that's scheduled. I haven't heard any more updates on that to date. And they are looking forward to hosting the St. Lawrence County Board of Legislators meeting on July 31st.
And rolling into that, sticking with you, sir, with the Highway Solid and Waste Committee.
Nothing further to report. Don Chambers done a great job.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Reagan for the Industrial Development Agency.
The IDA will be meeting tomorrow.
The Recreational Trails Advisory Board.
Thank you. Trails opened last Monday. We have 640 passes, trail passes already sold. They are working on the trails pretty diligently right now in good weather. We've had some of the citizens coming to the trail meetings complaining about maps being difficult to read, signage, garbage on the trails, all before any of the trails were being used with garbage. So we know it's not the trail users. Other than that, they're talking about paying attention to the regulations and the violations. And unfortunately, this past weekend, there was a accident with a death, and it was not on our trail system. But if people can just keep track of the rules and regulations and be safe out there. That's it.
Thank you. San Luis River Valley Redevelopment Agency. Forsyth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met a week and a half ago down in Louisville. About the only big news is the CDEIP grant applications have been prepared, I guess you would say, and prioritized. And Ms. Terminelli, the walleye restocking program was one of the applicants and was hugely received. So, you know, River Valley, I think it should be. So that looked good for them. And we're just prioritizing, and we'll meet one more time and finalize who gets what. But there was, I believe, 15 this year. Some really good projects. Some that are just too big for us to handle, and I think ARPA will become involved with some of those ARPA funds. But a lot of good projects out.
Thank you. St. Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce, Ms. Webster.
Yeah, well, as normal, they're busy as crazy over there. They just had their election with some new members, which is good. New set of eyes always helps. Not the old ones weren't doing a great job because they're moving right along. Sent out a big blitz email and stuff on information for the trails, times, you know, and stuff like that. A lot of information went out. Their mergers come along pretty good. Augsburg and Messina, the signer contracts. Still working on it. Basically, it'll all be under one umbrella, which will give them, I feel, will give them more, they'll be able to do more with more assets and more people in the field and work under one umbrella instead of a bunch of different ones. Their membership's growing. They got 45 new members since the beginning of the year. Several new webinars. Sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Several new webinars, a lot of them, I talked to Ruth, we're going to set up a presentation either in July or August where she can come in. There's just so much that they're doing right now, so many different areas that it'll be good for everybody to see some of the stuff that they're doing. But they're doing a great job.
Thank you. Finally, the Soil and Water Conservation District Board of Directors, Ms. Haggard.
Thank you very much. Obviously, Mr. Webster's voice and mine sound the same. Siri got confused. I apologize. We had a regular meeting on May 11th for the board to meet, as well as to have a send off for Rayanne Dulensky, who's been with us for 16 years. She has moved on as the director, as well as Mackenzie Church, who was the secretary treasurer. We had a nice dinner with the staff and the full board. I can say that we have filled both of those positions. I won't divulge names because that's in the works right now, and our next meeting is on June 22nd.
County Administrator, is there a need for an executive session?
And for negotiation, litigation, personnel.
Okay, a motion to go into executive session. All those in favor? Motion carried. Business. Motion to adjourn. Adjourn.
Good night, everybody.